So, a warm good day, good afternoon from wherever you will be watching this. I'm so delighted and honored to meet a very important person. But first of all, this is Chiroto Consults, where we speak about education and career. And in this episode, we're going to be hosting a powerful, well-informed gentleman from PFH University of Applied Sciences. And I always fear to say the names, but let me give it a shot. Mr. Kofi Ajiman Dua Boachi Dakwa. Thank you. Who is the Global Sales Manager International Hub at PFH? So briefly, I would like to give Mr. Kofi a chance to introduce himself, tell us who he is, and then we can go into the next part of this discussion.
All right. Thank you for having me, Stephen. So first, I have to say you mentioned my name beautifully, and that was a really good attempt on your end. So Kofi is a 32-year-old Ghanaian who has been living in Germany for the past almost 7 years now. He's someone who started off his education, that's his tertiary education, at the University of Ghana Business School. I studied public administration or management there. And then I came to the University of Duisburg-Essen to study international public administration, or another very fancy word for management. And then I've done a couple of jobs. I've worked in different industries, manufacturing, service provision. I currently find myself working in higher education, like you rightly said, in the capacity of global sales manager at the PFH. Anyone who knows me knows I'm passionate about education. So this was sort of a return home, coming to Jesus moment, coming into this job. And I'm really excited to talk to you about the PFH, what we have to offer, and why prospective students and parents alike should be looking at our university as they look to have that Western education abroad, and more specifically in Germany. So thank you again for having me, Stephen. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Just hearing your background, coming from abroad, from Ghana here, going through your whole education journey, I find that you are the right person to speak to me, to speak to students out there who are making these tough decisions of where to and when to start this journey. So we will go into that, but I'm so privileged that I have your time today. So, Kofi, we are here to talk about education. We are here to talk about studying abroad. Could you give me a perspective of where you see the current trends in as far as study abroad? You're in the industry. What do you think are the key determinants right now for students who are trying to make that decision?
That's an excellent question, Stephen. And I think it really comes down to a couple of things. I will name three specifically. And the first is after studying. Now, the study abroad trend has moved more from, having that 1 or 2 years international study experience to really what are the prospects of me relocating after I am done with my studies in a different country. And I think this is a trend that a lot of service providers and then also, consulting teams alike are really looking at, to be able to see which countries have the most, dare I describe them as, favorable conditions for students to be able to migrate after they are done studying. I think the next thing is finances, because this is a very important aspect, of what it means to have that international study abroad experience. How can I get that Western education I am looking for without breaking the bank? I think this is also another very important aspect of the whole process when it comes to putting together that decision of deciding to move from your home country and to study abroad. And I think the third thing is, what again are not just my prospects for living in the country, but then also what are my prospects for the labor market. And this is why I think for a lot of students, they are looking for what the safe choices are in terms of what they can study to be able to make that seamless transition from academia and into industry. So it's not just about, again, following your passion, which is always a great thing and which I encourage people to do, but it's also about how do you market yourself education-wise after you have received the education. So I think it's about the prospects of immigrating, the possibility of finance, and then finally also how can you make yourself attractive after your study on the labor market. These are the trends we're noticing today.
Keywords, you're looking for that experience, the financial part being so key, and then the opportunities afterwards, because no one is investing so much for nothing. People are expecting a return on investment. So I think that's very, very key what you're saying. Now, looking now to the German market, what's your perspective on Germany going into the big four or the big five? Where do you see the German education market at this stage?
I think it's a very exciting time for the German higher education industry because, like you correctly mentioned, and for a lot of people, the big four means Deloitte, it means PwC, but for those of us in the industry, it means the Canadas, the Australias, the USs, and then also the UKs of the world. And what we're seeing right now is that due to certain interesting, let me describe it as that, decisions by national governments to be able to roll back what I would say is progress within the higher education industry, Germany has really taken advantage of that opportunity to be able to open its doors to international students for the purposes of them being able to relocate, not just to study, but then also to remain in the country after they are done with their studies. I think what the German government has brilliantly done is that they have been able to identify a gap in the market from these four countries that we just talked about to be able to create a market or to be able to create an opportunity for the country in itself. It's no secret that the German labor force is currently missing some 2 million at the last count, skilled workers. And this is where the government has sat down to realize that we cannot fill this gap just from the EU or from the European market. We need to be able to attract foreign talent. And this is not just talent, from countries which do not form part of the EU, but it's also from countries like Ghana, where I come from Uganda, Stephen. It's countries, within Southeast Asia and countries from within the Americas. And I think this is why it's a very exciting time, because when you look at the trend, you are seeing still the big four. Of course, these are the more traditional schools that students or places or locations that students will always be interested in. But you're seeing Germany coming up into number 5 gradually. And I won't be surprised that within the next couple of years, we're going to be able to see Germany coming into the top 3 because it's becoming very attractive. It's offering you the opportunity to have that Western education without breaking the bank, and giving parents and students alike, the opportunity to align with a country that is not just renowned for excellence and quality, but then also now for higher education as well.
Excellent, excellent. The way you brought it down to the exact point that I wanted to drive to. German giving all these opportunities, and yet so many people don't know about them, and that's probably keeping it outside of the big four. But as more and more people get to know all about this, I'm sure there's going to be a shift in decisions and movement of students. Of course, also looking at the policy changes that are happening in other countries, as well as macroeconomic issues happening. We see, looking from the point of West Africa, where you're coming from, Nigeria, Ghana, big sending markets, we see the inflation and the currencies at such a very big disadvantage when it comes to paying tuition fees abroad. So it brings that down to Germany being a destination of choice. Where do you see the private industry or the private education market? Because I want now to come to PFH as a University of Applied Sciences, a private university. Tell me, Germany is known for this public university, but now we see a change in attitude, a growing trend, even including Germans who are going for private universities. Why do you think this is happening?
I think this is happening, and before that, I will say this is again another very interesting question because this is the great question that we are being faced with, those of us who work within this industry, because like you rightly said, lots of people are fascinated by Germany, not just by its technological prowess or how much aligned or known it is, for excellence in lots of different aspects, but also for the fact that this is a country that offers free, let's call it that, international education to not just its citizens, but then also from citizens from other countries, not just from within the EU, but then also outside of it. I was a beneficiary of, free public university education in Germany. But I think where the universities are beginning to fill in this gap, Stephen, is that compared to 7 years ago when I moved here, we have seen what is, I would describe that as a saturation of the public university market, where more and more people are realizing what this opportunity means for them. Like you rightly said, countries or regions such as the African continent, where I come from, which has been hard hit by cost of living crisis and inflation, and even in some cases, hyperinflation, makes people unable to be able to pay the tuition fees, which are mandatory in countries or in regions such as the UK, the US, and Canada, and then Australia. So they turn to Germany because they are able to afford that Western education without breaking the bank, which I think is a great thing, as education should be accessible and then affordable for everyone. So what the private universities are doing is that they are offering students the opportunity not just to be able to come into Germany and study for free of charge, but then they are also offering students the opportunity to be aligned with the industry even as they work. And for people who are looking to have that very seamless transition, I would call it that again, from academia and into industry, I think this is an excellent thing that students are not just limited to the theories that they study in the public universities, but then they can have a mixture of that and then also the more practical aspects as they study in the private universities. And this is the gap that universities like the PFH and then others are looking to fill in, within the higher education markets in Germany.
Awesome. That transition from the academia to the industry, to the real practice. This is the area where PFH seems to have really identified this unique selling point, as we could call it. So this is the great moment now for me to tell me a little bit more about PFH. As the little I know, it was founded in 1995 and it's considered as one of the oldest private university in Lower Saxony. As you rightly said, it has found its voice in the universities of applied science that are very strongly interwoven into the industry. But I'm sure you can tell me more about that and probably educate anyone who has never heard about PFH.
I'm more than happy to do that, but I also appreciate greatly the research that you have done, either independently or from our many conversations together, but still awesome.
From our conversations, mostly.
So everything that you said is true, Stephen. The PFH is a private university located within the German state of Lower Saxony. For anyone who knows anything about German geography, we were accredited to begin operations, like you again rightly mentioned, between 1994 and then 1995 and have been in operations ever since. We are a university, again, like you mentioned, that strives for excellence. And this is why over the almost 30 years of our existence, you will find that a lot of our alumni really occupy very influential positions in German industry, which spans, many different disciplines, different fields, and then also they are there in their multitudes. Now, the PFH is one of three universities that you can find within the state of Lower Saxony. The other ones being the private university that deals more with health and health-related issues, and then also the Georg August University, which, fun fact, is just across the street from the PFH. So we're able to share facilities and access also some of their networks as a result of this very close relationship we have with them. Now, the PFH began its venture into the international markets just a couple of years ago, but we're very proud of the progress that we have seen. We are looking to expand on that, which is the number, or which is one of the reasons why I joined the team, and I was very excited to be able to take this up, because we have expanded from just teaching mainly our courses in German, or exclusively in German, to introducing currently 7, soon to be 8, international programs, all taught in the English language, across 2 campuses, our main campus in Göttingen, where we run all of our management programs, and then also our campus in Stade, where we run all of our technological programs. The difference between these campuses, as I like to market them, is that we have the more, cosmopolitan, the more young, the more engaging, vibrant, city of Göttingen, where we run all of our management programs, the more traditional MBA, the Master of Science in General Management, and then also the Master of Science in User Experience Management, and then Design. And then in contrast, we also have the very quintessential European countryside campus in Stade, where we run all of our technological programs. Fun fact again, you can find that campus really in the center of what we describe as the Silicon Valley of the North, because we are surrounded by companies such as Airbus, Aerotech, the Fraunhofer Institute, and so on and so forth. And we run from there, again, traditional Master of Industrial Engineering, Lightweight Engineering and Composites, Digitalization and Automation, and then also a Master of Science in New Mobility and Micromobility. And that is our more European side country side campus, if you will. So this is the contrast and the difference between the 2 campuses, and then also the programs that we run from each of them.
Wonderful. The Silicon Valley of the North, that is something new I've learned today. So just to take you back a step, if you look at the private industry education market here in Germany, and you look at PFH, where would you position PFH, and what do you think would set PFH aside from all other universities?
That's a great question. And one of the ways by which I love to answer this question is by saying, just look at our progress, from less than 10 years ago when we launched our international programs, and look at where we are now in terms of our reach, in terms of our brand, and also in terms of our ability, as in how we have been able to influence the market. We started our international programs with less than 2 students. Now we have over 100 students across, the 2 different campuses that we have, and then counting. Year in year, as we introduce our new programs and then we also accredit them, we see that there's a strong, engaging, and then also a huge demand for what we offer, because we at the PFH have been able to study, the market and look at what the needs of the current market are, both management and technological, fields alike. And we really have our finger on the pulse of what is going on the market. And this is why, like I mentioned in the previous answer I gave Stephen, we have these very novel, very niche programs that we have created, because we see a path going forward as to where our graduates can make their mark and what influence they can leave, on the industry as they continue to work. Exciting times at the PFH, and this is why we believe that we have really been able to set ourselves apart from the others in terms of the kind of programs that we offer, in terms of the programs, which our students undertake, and then also in terms of the kind of graduates that we send out into the labor force. These are not just people who, like I mentioned previously, have gone ahead to study theories and espouse them, but then they are also people who are able to practically utilize the theories that they have studied, by virtue of the fact that the students at the PFH is able to have really that opportunity to marry in real time, the theory and then also the practical aspect of what they study. And I think it is, again, one of the things that really makes us stand out at the PFH, and makes us really proud of the work that we have done, continue to do, and hopefully will expand on in the future.
Brilliant. I should be very honest, there are some programs I've seen that you're offering, and I do try always to look at the uniqueness in each of the university's program. And if I look at some of the courses like lightweight engineering, like mobility, what was it again?
New mobility and
New
micromobility.
I find these programs so future oriented. And I think anyone there who is interested in this kind of future-oriented studies, industry that are going to influence the future way of work, mobility, and communication is going to find these programs very interesting. So thank you so much for answering that. Looking at it from the point you said, the emphasis on the applied knowledge, yes, you have the theoretical and the applied knowledge is very focused, the big focus. So what are some of the key skills that you think graduates espouse when they leave the campuses in Göttingen and Stade, when they go out into the industry? What do you hear from the people that are working or dealing with them?
Lots of different things, and I think it's quite challenging to put this into a few words. But what I will say is that, you know, the world of work has really changed from what it used to be, even within these very short years that you know, I worked in the industry and have come back to higher education. I think there has been this very huge shift as to how it used to operate and then how it operates now. What employers are looking for are not just people who, of course, have had that training, know their stuff when it comes to the different subjects, and then also what they would need to do. But I think employers are also looking for people who already have some practical aspects, you know, of what they have studied and are ready to hit the ground running from day one. Is this unfair? Well, this is the great debate which is happening because we obviously send people to school to study. So the question is, how do they get the experience even while they do that? But this is a conversation for another day. What we at the PFH do is, having recognized this need to be able to churn out graduates, not just, you know, for the sake of churning them out, but being able to train managers and people who are in the labor force for the future. This is what I like to describe the PFH graduates as: a manager for the future. Is that we are able to put into place, or we have been able to put into place, different measures and different programs for our students to be able to get some of this experience even after they leave our campus, or even during while they are still, you know, studying with us at the PFH. Now, this includes a variety of things. This includes the many excursions and workshops that we offer with our over 500 business partners, you know, during the year, during the semesters. These are either on-site visits from our students to these companies, or on-campus visits from these organizations to our university campus, to be able to interact and engage with students in real time. This is also by form or by virtue of the compulsory internships that we offer, or that we expect our students to fulfill even while they are studying with us. Our students are able to, you know, undertake an internship, a compulsory one, from the second semester of their studies, even while they are still students at the PFH. Now, it also comes in the form of our career services team being able to work with our students for up to 9 months after they have graduated from our campus, in terms of helping them through CV writing, through, you know, mock trials for job interviews, and so on and then so forth, to be able to position them uniquely as to the kind of opportunities that they are able to access even as and after they leave our campus as graduates of the PFH. So, like I mentioned, it's not just about having students and sending them out into the labor force. It's also about the kind, quality, and caliber of students that we send out from the PFH into the labor force. And we're very happy to say that of the many business partners that we work with as a university, they are really keen to have our students. They are really keen to continue working with us because they see the value and the need of a PFH graduate. And I can only say, even though I may be a bit biased, that what we are doing is actually working.
I certainly believe you're not biased because you're very sincere person when it comes to guiding students. So I appreciate your very candid and elaborate answer to that question, because I believe that is very important, not only to the graduates, but also the employers. What do they expect from your graduates? And I would like to take you again to the question that is slightly connected to that, which is about accreditation and recognition, because this is an important aspect of the migration student movement. Yes, there is a certain segment of students that are looking for accreditation. And in some countries, they want to look at the rankings of the university. But we know this idea of ranking in Germany is not something that is very much fancied, like you go into the other big 3 or 4. But looking at the accreditation of the programs that PFH is offering, can you say something about that briefly?
Yes, and this is actually something which is really freshly imprinted in my mind because it was actually a topic I was working on last week and then also the week before. Like you rightly said, in Germany, I think what is very important for any university is that it has accreditation from the state, accreditation or the State Ministry of Education, the National Ministry or the Federal Ministry of Education, and then also the National Accreditation Board, which sits in Bonn, in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, if you will. So this is what is key for any university to be able to operate, because if you don't have the accreditation for these programs, it renders what you are offering, null and void, and then also your students unable to be able to make their mark as your courses are not really validated. I'm happy to say that at the PFH, we are accredited by all of the necessary bodies, the State Ministry of Education, the Federal Ministry of Education, and then also the National Accreditation Board that sits in Bonn. Are all, agencies that we have been able to receive our accreditation from. And I really like what you mentioned about accreditation, Stephen, because it's extremely important that when students spend all of this money, make the decision to leave their home countries and move to another, to be able to pursue that international study experience that they are looking for, that they are doing it at a university which is qualified and also which is permitted, keyword, to be able to give this education that they are paying money to be able to receive. We at the PFH are very keen, on making sure that our students actually enjoy and also have, let's call it bragging rights, of a university that is actually accredited by all the necessary agencies and is able to give out the programs which we've both agreed to in today's session are very novel, very unique, and also have a very niche place in the future-oriented industry, of the future of the labor force of the next generation. So if you're looking at, for example, our lightweight and engineering program, which was developed in collaboration with the company Airbus and is looking at sustainable material development for the aviation industry, which has been accredited not just by, like I mentioned, the Federal Ministry of Education, the State Ministry of Education, and then also the National Accreditation Agency in Bonn, but also by aviation partners within the German society and industry as well. So just an example of why accreditation is important and how we are setting the pace at the PFH to be able to fulfill this.
Brilliant, brilliant. So you touched base on all the different accreditations, and also you've actually done a good job at explaining or demystifying the whole notion of rankings and whether that matters actually into the German setting. Thank you very much. And so, Kofi, I know we are almost getting time bad, but I have a lot of questions, and there is one particular point that I find so key when I speak to students. They are looking at the post-career or post-graduation opportunities and their ability to network, the alumni support given. Maybe you could briefly share on that. How does PFH do this?
In a number of different ways. One of the ways is that we organize very regular alumni evenings or, webinars or workshops with, like I previously mentioned, our students or our past students, let me call them that, who currently occupy very influential positions in German industry and society, to be able to mentor and then bring up the new ones who are looking to leave our campus and then also to go into the industry after they are done studying with us. Another way by which we also do this is the different groups that we organize, on LinkedIn, which is a project that we're currently working on, because when you go on LinkedIn, you just put in PFH, what you will see is an astonishing number of students who are making their marks in different industries. e-commerce, commerce in itself, the aviation sector, the technology sector, the education sector. So we're looking for a way to be able to bring all of these people together and bring on board that network of past and existing PFH students to be able to network, to be able to engage, and to be able to develop, the brand and then also the university in their places of work. Another way by which we do this at the PFH, really connecting that network and then with the current crop of students, is really taking our students out into the field. This is by virtue of the workshops, this is by virtue of the excursions, which I mentioned, which are really important, to be able to expose our students to people who have actually studied, perhaps not at the PFH, but then also subjects and topics which they are currently studying, to be able to make them know that there is a network, maybe not from the PFH, but then also generally of people who have gone through the process and the education that they are going through, and who they can expect to be their colleagues, and then, perhaps even eventually their mentors, and then also maybe even friends to some extent, as they go out into the industry. So we really do this in a variety of ways, linking our current students to our past students, and again, something that we're very happy to say has found or has been met with great success.
Awesome, awesome. And Kofi, now I would like the viewers or anyone who is listening to understand the scope and magnitude of the offers that you have. From my last check was you had about 4,500 students, right? With almost up to 50 different degree courses taught in person and online. Could you maybe touch base? And then my very interesting question would be, give me your top 5 of these courses that you could say, if you don't know what to do, maybe read more about this one.
Great question. And another thing I like about you, Stephen, is your ability to put someone on the spot, but do it nicely. I like that about you. I need to learn this very underrated
I'm so
skill.
sorry about that.
So twofold question. The first part is yes. So we offer a very unique portfolio, of study programs. So besides the on-campus students, we also have the distance learning students, and then we also have the bachelor and then also the master students that we cater to exclusively in German. So it's a really big or huge, let me call it, conglomerate of different students offering very different and diverse programs, which we're extremely proud of. It also means that we have a very diverse student body. Like I mentioned, less than, I would say, 2 students that we started with, because one was full and one was part-time, and now we have over 100 sometimes sitting in one program alone, which makes it very interesting for what we're doing at the PFH. The diversity of our students' body, again, is something we're extremely proud of and really hope to build on, as the years go ahead. The second part of your question is, what would I bring it down to? My top 5 interesting programs. Well, I think I would always start with the more traditional ones, won't I? So if we're looking at the Master of Science, in industrial engineering, or the more traditional MBA, these are the programs that a lot of students look out for, because these are people who are looking to make their mark either in the technological or either in the business industry as leaders, as they go ahead. So these, of course, would be my first 2. I would also go for the lightweight engineering master program, because like I mentioned, what we're looking to do here is really be able to discover what is the more sustainable way of, building the aviation industry for the future. I think we've seen what's happened, unfortunately, with the aviation industry in terms of certain organizations and in terms of certain flight conditions. And what we are looking to do is to see how can we use materials which are sustainable but give us the same or even better efficiency when they are utilized in building aircraft. I would also definitely look at the UX management and then design program, because we're looking at how do we create a good experience for our customers, as they use the interfaces that we have built, the websites that we have built, as they use the programs and the designs that will be shaping the future in terms of how we educate ourselves, we move around, we order our food and our clothing, the things that the Gen Zs like to do, let's call them that. And then also perhaps I would definitely be looking at the new mobility and micromobility program, because this is everything that has to do with smart transportation and movement for the future. We're looking at everything up to the point of a car that we can power. So these are e-bikes, e-scooters. We're looking at drones, and how do we, shape the future of transportation in a very sustainable and ecological way, to be able to build on the progress that we are seeing from um, mobility giants such as Tesla, VW, Mercedes, for the future, the automotive or the automation industry. How do we build on the progress that they're already enjoying in this current moment? So these would definitely be my top 5. And for anybody who's unsure as to what they would like to do at the PFH, I'm more than happy to push them in this direction, or feel free to reach out to us to have a chat. We're here to inform you.
Great. You actually came almost close to the next question, which I wanted to ask, as in, can you walk us through the criteria or requirements for admission, and maybe in key 1 to 5 steps, how do I start? I find, for example, lightweight engineering very interesting. What do I need? When do I start applying? And
So,
yeah, that's something that I think I would like to know.
So one of the exciting things at the PFH, which I find very unique, is that we operate on a rolling deadline basis. So this means that we do not have, any deadline. Students can apply to us at any point in the year, and we're more than happy to accept their applications, even for, coming years. I currently have applications from students who are looking, or from counselors who have sent students in for 2025, which I think is absolutely, brilliant. So yeah, students are already preparing that far ahead to be able to study. Another thing that I would also like to talk about, is that with the different disciplines come the different criteria. But at the PFH, we also believe that education should be accessible for anyone who is qualified and has an interest. And this is why our very capable admissions team is there to be able to take a look, at all of the applications that come in. We actually do that. We go through and we proofread. This is done by actual human beings. Again, something we're extremely proud of, even though it may make us slow but still efficient, I like to say. So this is also something that we do to see how our prospective students actually align to the programs that they want to study, at the PFH. With exceptions of the Master of Business Administration, that is close to, students who come from a business background, and then also our lightweight engineering program, which also requires that our students come to us with a more technical background, and then also a year's worth of working experience after graduation. Same applies to the MBA when it comes to the working experience. All of our programs are judged based on how close the alignment is of the previous bachelor study to the prospective master study. And this is where our admissions team really does an excellent job in being able to see what the comparison is and being able to offer admission to our students, of course, based on a set of guidelines which is issued, or which have been issued by the State Ministry of Education, based on which we were accredited to run the program. So I would encourage students, to go to our website, www.pfh.en, look at the different programs that we have on offer, fill in our application, which I love to say is a no-brainer. It takes all of 10 minutes. That would be step 2. Wait for our admissions team to get back in touch with a request for further documents, or, a request for any other information that they might need. The application process typically takes anything from 1 up to 4 weeks. We are some much faster than that, but I always see a standard operating procedure, maximum of 4 weeks. The next step would be then for, the documents to be returned, the enrollment fees to be paid, all of the necessary paperwork to be issued, and then the students can begin to process their, travel to Germany to either begin the spring semester, which is in April of each year, or the autumn semester in October of each year as well. So we have 2 intakes each year for almost all our programs, except for our lightweight engineering program, which only runs in the autumn of each year, so October.
Wow. Thank you. Very well explained and answered the step-by-step process. And probably I could emphasize also on the aspect of support, because you understand, due to the power levels or information knowledge levels, it can sometimes be complicated for some students to understand the requirements, to break down to the key steps, to follow down the deadlines and make sure they submit the applications in time. And then it comes out also to the next part, the immigration part, which also requires serious, dedicated effort. Like, you need to understand the process to guarantee a successful outcome. So that's when I think people like us come into play to try to bridge up that gap, and also to try to translate sometime the communication that might not be well, that might not come down to the students very well. So if anyone is out there, you're searching the website and you're not finding the right information, you maybe need someone to give you a hand, to look over the shoulder to see that things are well done, then you can also reach out to Chiroto Consults, and our team will be very happy to support you throughout the process. And of course, always hand in hand, always in tandem with PFH. You said something which was very important. You take serious attention to the details. And this is something that also we do. We look at the students' applications to ensure that they align with the university requirements, so that we also save you that time. Each and everyone, your staff has to go through all this. But I want to come back to one point, Kofi, that you mentioned. The idea of students applying, you give them 1 to 4 weeks feedback, which I find quite fast. But I also found something that PFH does very well is you enable students who are maybe delayed, who have been delayed by visa processes or whatsoever, to even do a whole semester online while they're waiting for the next steps to come. Tell me more about that, because I find that quite innovative to some countries like Nigeria, Ghana, or Cameroon, where visas can take really ages.
Yes, the struggle of the African continent passports, but again, another conversation for another day. I think what we at the PFH have done, again, is that we have identified that sometimes it's not as easy for students to be able to really get their visas or process all of their documents in time to be able to make this very necessary travel, to join us for the beginning of their education. And this is where we have seen that gap. And instead of saying we will defer you to the next intake, we have said we are prepared to go with you completely online for the first semester of the program. This is something that currently applies to only our management programs. And I'm sure you can understand why, seeing that technology is a much more hands-on, aspect of education than management is. Lots of people like to differ or debate about this, but again, conversations for another day. So what we do at the PFH is that we really give students the opportunity, if they cannot make it in time for the intake, we give them the opportunity to be able to take the first semester of their education completely online. It's something we're extremely proud about, as we are one of the few, if not the only university that actually, does this instead of just deferring students to the next intake. And we've seen that it's actually worked very well, because you see students with the ability and with the commitment to be able to work, independently until they are able to join their colleagues on campus. As compared to if they would have said, okay, I'm just going to defer until the next intake, to be able to come to campus as well. So this is a very exciting thing that we have implemented at the PFH, again, to great success. And we are looking to expand and build on that to see if perhaps in the future we can run entire programs online. We're looking to see if we can incorporate the technological programs also on this online model, to be able to save our students who cannot make the journey in time for the technology programs to be able to start studying, on time, and join in the next semester of the study as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for clarifying that. And then to an important question, which is always the second question that I hear whenever I travel and talk to students. You have sometimes very smart students, very committed and motivated, highly motivated, but the financial aspect becomes a challenge. So I would like to combine this with the other question of the financing, the investment. I wouldn't say the cost of education, but the investment.
Yes.
There is a cost on this, but also tell us more about the other elements of financial aid that is offered and who qualifies for that.
Great question. And, having grown up around education, I've always realized this value and also the fact that it's able to really transform and inform. And I think it's very important that anybody who's willing should be able to access and should be able to afford, education. And I'm very happy to work for an institution that really shares the same belief, that no matter where you come from, you should be able to access education. We will do our best to make it even more affordable than it already is, for our students to be able to access. Now, there are different steps in financing your education, not just at the PFH, but then also in Germany. The federal government requires and requests that each student coming, into Germany should be able to take care of themselves by form of what we call a blocked account or a Sperrkonto. Now, this at the moment, I think it's a little bit over 11,000 euros. Please don't quote me on that. And this is where, all the students are able to withdraw a monthly amount of, again, I think a little bit over 900 euros. Again, refuse to be quoted. On this figure. So this is where you withdraw this amount of money and you pay everything from this, your rent, your health insurance, you pay for food, clothing, anything else that you might like to do, which is fixed for the whole entire year's period. Now, this is a requirement from the federal government, not from the PFH. Doesn't apply to private or only public. It applies to all international students who are looking to study here. And then you come to the PFH that charges tuition fees, for the different programs that we actually, offer to our students from our campuses. We have made it in a way that every student coming to us merits what we describe as a regional discount. So if you're coming from the African continent, you're coming from the Asian continent, you're coming from Europe, you're coming from the Middle East, you merit automatically a regional discount from the PFH. Now, anyone who identifies as well as, a top student, and this is a person who presents to us exceptional academic prowess from their bachelor study, is also entitled to a discount as well. In some cases, students merit as much as 25% from the PFH to be able to finance their studies. So this is 25% of their total tuition at the PFH when they are coming to finance their studies with us, which we think is an exciting, very novel, and then also very in times with how it really seeks to enable students to be able to afford education, move from the PFH. So this is what, students have to consider when they are looking to study at the PFH, financing their tuition fees, being able to pay the money into their blocked account or the Sperrkonto in German, but then also that they can expect to receive sometimes up to 25% of a discount from us on their total tuition fees as they come as students to the PFH.
Wow, it's very interesting. I keep remembering what you said. You can still get this Western high quality education without breaking the bank. And I think that is quite in line with that. Thank you so much. And now as we are winding up, Kofi, I would like to know, what would be your last message to anyone out there who is still maybe at the age or trying to think whether this is the right thing for me? Should I go to Germany? Should I go public or private? Should I go to PFH? What would be your last message?
I think what I would say, as my last message to anyone who is really still thinking about this decision, Germany and then PFH, I will definitely start from the PFH. You always want to be associated with the best. You always want to go to a place that you can really get value for the money that you pay, where you can expect to get top-notch support, not just from, the administrators or facilitators at the university, but also from the professors alike. You want to be at a place which identifies and associates with excellence, and that is the PFH. We are a university, a private university that has been able to really withstand all the odds. To be able to build on this mark and this brand for ourselves. We're currently looking to build upon that. We have developed 7 world-class, very novel, very niche programs, and looking to add on an 8th in the spring of 2025. You will either be getting the best of what you envision for Europe, that is the bustling cosmopolitan, city, or the very quintessential idyllic, European countryside. And you would be meeting people, from all over the world. You'd be meeting a very diverse student body of people who share the same dreams and aspirations and values, such as yourselves, even as you study and you also look to graduate and go into the world. When it comes to Germany, I would say there's nothing that, I think makes a person feel better than when they take a chance on themselves and that chance actually pays off. I am a living example and embodiment of somebody who actually decided to take that chance on themselves. I knew about Germany because my father actually studied here. This is where he received all of his education. So for people who always wonder, why did you come here? This is the reason I always tell them. But then I remember coming here almost 7 years ago, with my bags at the Duisburg Hauptbahnhof. I studied at the University of Duisburg-Essen. Just getting off the elevator and thinking to myself, okay, how do I retrace my steps and go back home? But it's been a very interesting 7 years. I would not give it up for anything. I have met very interesting and fascinating people, yourself included, Stephen. I have worked with really amazing people that I have learned from, I have developed from, I have really been mentored by. And this would be my hope and my wish for anybody who is looking to, make that move. Forget about the language, which can be a whole thing on its own. Forget about the food, which is also another conversation for another day, and really take that chance on yourself. I have not regretted it, and I don't expect anyone to regret it either.
Yeah, powerful words. Take a chance on yourself. And I think I can't add anything more to that. Probably if I'm to add on 2 things, I like the hoodie PFH Göttingen. I hope I'll get one of that sometime soon. But then maybe the last one is, in case you need more information about PFH, visit the website. And also if you need extra support or help, and you need an extra person to help you in that process, then Chiroto Consults will be very happy to help you in that process. So Kofi, it was such an honor to have you. Thanks for sharing this immense knowledge that you have. And I look forward to having you for furthermore episodes.
Definitely. And if I could get just a minute before we wrap up, Stephen, I also want to say thank you very much for the work that we have done and continue to do together. I would also definitely want to recommend, your consulting service to any student who might be thinking about making that move and doesn't know where to start from. Back in the day, which was just as recent as 7 years ago, we did not have too many of such really professional consulting services around. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be in touch with somebody who is not just passionate about education, but is knowledgeable about the field and also really takes time to guide and really inform the students from one stage to the next. And that is Chiroto and then also you, Stephen. So I can really recommend this consulting service for anyone who's interested. And I don't expect anyone to have any regrets, but if you do, come back to me and I'll talk to Stephen for you. But I don't expect you to, so yes.
Thank you so much for that wonderful endorsement, and I appreciate that. So wish you all the best and hope to see you very soon.
Definitely. Have a good day. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Stephen.
Bye.